examples. Sabi dito, when considering the number of possible combination, it's often helpful to think of ordered slots in a line that we can fill, just like what we have done on the given previous slide. So for example, if we are asked to determine the number of ways of picking one card from each of 20 different packs of standard playing cards. When we say standard, hindi kasama dyan ng joker. Ano? So usually, ilan ba ang number of cards in a deck of cards? Usually 52, di ba? So in this case, to determine the possible number of combinations, yan. So since there are 52 cards in a deck and there are 20 different packs, then the number of combinations can be determined by using this formula. 52 raised to the 20th power. And whatever becomes the answer, yun na po yung sagot dito sa possible number of combinations. Next example, the number of outcomes from the throw of a die and the toss of a coin. By the way, here, magkaiba. Throw of a die and toss of a coin. So, die has 6 faces and coin has either heads or tails. So in this case, to get the number of combination, we just multiply the 2. Diba? So 6 sa faces and die times 2 sa head and tails. Therefore, there are 12 possible combinations. And for our next example, the number of outcomes from 5 coins and 5 dice flipped or thrown simultaneously. Paano natin makukuha yung number of combinations? So we'll just use the formula. 2 raised to the 5th power. Bakit 2 raised to the 5th power? This comes from our possible outcomes doon sa throwing coin, either heads or tails. Since there are 5 coins, 2 raised to the 5th power, times 6 raised to the 5th power, saan nanggaling naman ito? So ito yung nanggaling doon sa faces of a die. And then again, since may 5 dice na available, 6 raised to the 5th power. So this can be further simplified as 12 raised to the 5th power. So these are the possible combinations out of the given example. So let's have the second one, fundamentals number 2, the factorial function. Perhaps the most key operator in combinatorics is the factorial function, where n factorial means n factorial. It tells us the number of ways of arranging distinct objects in a line. In a previous discussion, we have discussed factorial. For example, if we are given with 4 factorial, to simplify that, that is just simply 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which would be 24, by the way. Ano? So, ganun din ang prinsipyo dito. Ano? So, for example, how many ways of ordering these pieces of fruit? So, may 4 tayong klase ng prutas dito, di ba? So, we have lemon, lime, orange ba yun? And mango siguro itong last. Okay, so in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to still use the slot filling approach. So, sa unang pili, di ba? There are 4 possible options. We could pick any of the 4 pieces of fruit for the first slot. Doon sa second slot, we have remaining 3 fruits to choose from for the second slot. And for our third slot, 2 choices na lang. And yung last slot, edi 1 na lang. So in this case, we just simply determine this as 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So therefore, there are 24 ways of ordering these pieces of fruit based on the given example. So let us have the next one. Sabi dyan, fundamentals number 3, the permutation function, permutation of n taken k at a time. So before we were interested in how to order n things in a line, but supposedly we now have, or we are interested in how to order k things in a line when we can choose from n objects. By the way, di ba, in your junior high school or senior high school, I think you have discussed permutation. When we say permutation, it's considered on how we order things, di ba? For example, how many ways to pick 3 items of fruit from amongst 5 and put them on a shell? Kanina yung example, di ba, 4 na prutas lang, and then titingnan mo lang yung possible combinations ng pagpili. But for this time, 3 lang ang pipiliin out of the 5 given fruits. So, paano natin siya isa-solve? Ayan. So, we could pick any of the 5 pieces of fruit for the first slot. Ganun pa rin naman. The difference from earlier is that we only have 3 slots. Thus, don't use all the fruit. So, ngayon, paano kaya ito isa-solve? So, we'll be using this formula. So by the way, this is the formula for permutation, di ba? This is given by 5 factorial divided by 2 factorial. So saan nanggaling 5 factorial? 5 factorial comes from the number n, di ba? Kung ilan lahat. And kung ilan ang natira, 2 factorial, that is our denominator. So by the way, permutation have the formula of n factorial divided by the quantity n minus k factorial. So kaya 5 minus 3, kaya naging 2 factorial yung nasa baba. So if you are going to use your calculators, 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So 20, 60, 120 divided by 2. So there are 60 possible combinations or permutations given the problem. Let us have this question, a question about permutation, I think. So the cards in a set of 36 are numbered 1 to 36. The cards are shuffled and 4 cards are dealt. So ibig sabihin, 4 ang pipiliin. What are the chances of them being dealt in descending order? Yung pababa ang arrangement. So kung 4, ano daw ang chances na siya ay descending order? So here are the possible choices. Sa tingin niyo, what will be the possible answer here? Paano kaya natin isosolve yun? Okay, so an idea? Okay, so the answer is, ano kaya ito? This is 1 in 24. Bakit? Tingnan maigi. Notes, if 4 distinguishable objects are chosen, there are 4 factorial. So there are 24 ways to arrange them. Okay? So 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is 24. There are 24 ways to arrange them. Only one of these possibilities has them in descending order. Kung gusto nyo i-prove ito, pwede nyo ilista lahat ng possible combinations ng 24 cards. For example, magbigay na lang kayo ng values. And then, isa lang talaga doon ang magkakaroon ng combination na siya ay descending order. That's why our given answer here is 1 in 24 or 1 is to 24. So the permutation function P taken K at a time so given in ano. So the given permutation has the given formula. So by the way, I have discussed this naman kanina in the previous slide. So a permutation can be found by using the formula n factorial over the quantity n minus k factorial So a given question, calculate the probability of winning the UK lottery where you choose 6 distinct numbers from 1 to 49 for your ticket and 6 numbers are drawn from the machine ignoring the bonus ball. Ayan. So for the unordered approach, if at no point do we consider the balls order, then we just use the formula for the combination. The combination of 49 taken 6 at a time. So the winning outcome is 1 because only one unordered choice of numbers can win. So therefore, the probability of winning can be found by using the formula 1 over 49 or the combination of 49 taken 6 at a time. You just apply the formula for getting the combinations as what we have discussed a while ago, which is n factorial divided by n minus k factorial times k factorial. That's the formula. So let us continue. So the ordered approach naman tayo, same problem pa rin. Ano? So consider the numbers on a lottery ticket as ordered since the balls from the machine are drawn in a particular order. Then the total possible tickets will be the permutation of 49 taken 6 at a time because we're considering ordering. Tama ba? And the winning outcomes is 6 factorial. Bakit? Because if the winning numbers were 13, 3, 9, 40, 24, and 1, in the order that they were drawn, then any of the 6 factorial arrangements of this would win. So therefore, the probability of winning can be computed by using 6 factorial divided by the permutation of 49 taken 6 at a time. So since permutation of the formula n factorial divided by n minus k factorial, kaya naging 6 factorial divided by 49 factorial all over 43 factorial. And then since we have a fraction, kinross multiply, di ba? Multiplying by its reciprocal. So 43 factorial times 6 factorial over 49, which is just equivalent with 1 over the combination of 49 taken 6 at a time. So sana you take note of the difference on approaching problems, the ordered and the unordered way. So let's have probabilistic versus combinatoric approaches. So di ba kanina nasabi natin ang combinatorics at ang probability ay halos magkamuka. So mamaya sa problem natin malalaman nyo na pwede rin namang i-approach ang problem using combinatorics or either probability. So for the question, 3 men each independently pick a number between 1 and 10. So what's the probability that their numbers are different? Ayan, nagbigay tayo ng illustration. For example, si person individual number 1 get 4. Si second person get 6. And the last one get 1. Ayan, so what is the probability that their numbers are different? Ayan, sabi dyan, it's 18 over 25. Bakit kaya or paano kaya naging 18 over 25 ang sagot? So we'll be approaching this using the probabilistic approach and the combinatoric approach. So let's first have the probabilistic approach. Consider the men one at a time and consider the probability that their number doesn't clash with the previous men's choice. For example, let's name this as Hammond, May, and Clarkson. Hammond goes first. So the probability that the number don't clash will be equal to 1 since 100% siya pa lang naman ang pinakaunang bumunot. Tama ba? Ayan. Because there's no previous min. Pero si May goes second, so therefore the probability that the number doesn't clash, since there are 10 numbers na bawasan na ng isa, there will be 90% na lang na natitira. And if Clarkson goes last, the probability that the number doesn't clash should be lessened by another 10%. So naging 8 over 10 na lang. So therefore, the probability that all numbers will be different, anong gagawin natin? We are just going to multiply the probabilities na nakuha natin for each of them. So 1 times 9 over 10 times 8 over 10. If you are going to simplify this, that is just equal to 18 over 25. Now, let's go with the combinatoric approach. Ayan. So, for the total outcome, since there are 10 numbers, di ba? 10 cube ang possible. Outcomes in which numbers are different, the numbers of ways of choosing 3 numbers from 10. For example, ayan, combination of 10 taken 3 at a time. So, therefore, using the combinatoric approach, ang gagawin lang natin, the probability that all numbers will be different will just be the combination of 10 taken 3 at a time over 10 factorial. So simplifying that, we should also obtain same answer, which is 18 over 25. So let us have some more examples. Ayan, converting problems into slot filling ones. You have a bowl of 3 pieces of fruit. How many ways are there of making a selection of fruits from the bowl? So you can include the possibility that you pick no fruit. So what do you think is the answer? Ilan kaya ang possibility? Okay, so the correct answer is 8. Ngayon, the question here is paano naging 8 ang sagot? So let's discuss. So if we use the choose approach in our selection, we can just choose one piece of fruit. So we can do first, kapag tatlong piraso pa siya, edi we have the combination of 3 taken 1 at a time. If you simplify the given equation, that's equal to 3. Or we can choose 2 pieces of fruit. So the combination of 3 taken 2 at a time. So the answer is still 3. Am I right? Or we can choose all 3 pieces of fruit. So the combination of 3 taken 3 at a time is always equal to 1. Or choose none of them as stated on the given problem. Combination of 3 taken 0 at a time is also 1. So now what we are going to do using the choose approach is we are going to get the sum of those possibilities. So 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1, that's why naging 8 ang sagot natin. So using the slot filling approach naman, give each piece of fruit a slot. So di ba tatlong prutas lang naman yan. Each fruit can either be chosen or not be chosen. So in this case, there are two possible, di ba? Be chosen and not be chosen. So we'll use the formula 2 cube, where 2 is the possibility of being chosen and not being chosen. And 3 represents the number of fruits. So simplifying 2 cube will be 8. So therefore, there are 8 possibilities or the answer to the given question. So we are done with combinatorics. Ayan, so natapos din. This will be our last topic naman, probability. So kanina na-discuss natin na halos magkalapit ang idea ng combinatorics at probability. So let's first define what is probability. Probability can be defined as the chance of an event occurring. It can be used to quantify what the odds are that a specific event will occur. So some examples of how probability is used every day would be weather forecasting, 75% chance of snow, or for setting insurance rates. So take note that if we are talking about probability, we are talking about percentages. Am I right? So if that is the case, then for problems having probability, considering probability, we can have answers in the form of percentage, fraction, or a decimal. Now, let us define terms related to probability. So sample spaces and probability. A probability experiment is a chance process that leads to well-defined results called outcomes. So an outcome is the result of a single trial of a probability experiment. For example, if you toss a coin, so the outcome can be either heads or tails. In that given situation is an example of a probability experiment. So a sample space is the set of all possible outcomes of a probability experiment. Now, relating to our example later, if you toss a coin, then the sample space can either be heads and tails. Tama ba? Dalawa lang naman ang possible options kung siya ay tossing a coin. And an event consists of outcomes. So these are the terms related to sample spaces and probability. Let us have some examples of experiments and the sample space for the given experiment. Again, para mas maliwanag. For example, if you toss a coin, then the sample space, the possible outcomes can either be head or tail, as what I have given on the previous example. If you roll a die, what are the possible sample space, or what is the sample space? Of course, it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, since there are 6 faces of a die. So answer a true false question. Of course, if you will be answering true false question, then what are the possible sample space? What are the possible outcomes? Diba? It can either be just be true or false. And then next, if you toss 2 coins naman, what are the possible sample space? Of course, you are going to think of the possible combination from the given event, di ba? Experiment, tossing 2 coins. So what are the possible sample space? Ayan, so since we have 2 coins, edi ganyan na. So we have 2 heads, 1 head and 1 tail, 1 tail and 1 head, and then tail, tail. Notice that we are separating head, tails to tails, head, since tossing 2 coins have different order, kumbaga. Tama ba? So these are some examples lang mga anak on determining sample space based on a given experiment. So another example, if we are going to rolling dice, and find the sample space for rolling 2 dice. If you are going, or if you are asked to determine the sample space for rolling 2 dice, then you are going to list all the possible combinations. Ayan, mula 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, hanggang 6, 1, 6, 2, 6, 3, 6, 4, 6, 5, and 6, 6. And now here, the elements of the given table are the sample space for rolling 2 dice. Now, let us have the given example. If 2 dice are rolled 1 time, so dalawang dice, take note ha, find the probability of getting these results. First is a sum of 6, we have doubles, a sum of 7 or 11, a sum greater than 9, and a sum less than or equal to 4. Let's discuss the first example. So since we have 2 dice, a sum of 6, tinitingnan ko ilan ang probability. So there is a total of 36 outcomes. Bakit? Since there are 6 possible outcomes for a die, since dalawa, 6 times 6 is 36 outcomes. Now, what are the numbers na pinag-add ay a sum of 6 ang lalabas? So they are 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, 3, 4, 2, and 5, 1. So there are 5 ways. So therefore, to get the probability, we just divide the number of ways. We get a sum of 6 by the total possible outcomes, which is 36. So the answer is 5 over 36. Now, how about for doubles? So there are 6 ways to get doubles. When say get doubles, parehas. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and 6, 6. So we'll just divide that. 6 divided by 36, or simply reduce to its lowest term, that is simply 1 over 6. For our next example, we have a sum of 7 or 11. Again, ang rule dito or ang hint is to try to list the sample space na magkakaroon ka ng 7 or 11. Ano yon? There are 6 ways to get a sum of 7. They are 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4, 4, 3, 5, 2, and 6, 1. So, di ba, ang arrangement ay hindi naman important. Kaya, pwede ang 1, 6, saka 6, 1. They are not considered as parehas. Kasi, order is important here. So, since there are 7, so the probability is just, well, and then there are 2 ways to get a sum of 11. They are 5, 6, and 6, 5. Ano ngayon ang sagot dito? A sum of 7 or 11. So we are just going to add the corresponding probabilities. So the probability then is 8 over 36. Bakit naging 8? 6 plus 2 divided by 36. So 6 plus 2 is 8 over 36. Reduced to its lowest form, divisible sila parehas by 4. So kaya naging 2 over 9. Okay? So next example, a sum of greater than 9. So now, what are the combinations which will yield a sum greater than 39? To get a sum greater than 9, one must roll a 10, 11, or 12. Tama ba? So ngayon, ililista niyo yung possible combinations. There are 6 ways to get a 10, 11, or 12. They are 4, 6, 5, 5, 6, 4, 6, 5, 5, 6, and 6, 6. So then, the probability is 6 divided by 36, which will be 1 over 6. For our next example, what is the probability that the patient has 1 or 2 tests done? So here we have the table. So we have the number of tests performed and the number of patients corresponding to it. So since we have OR, anong gagawin? So you're just going to add the probability for 1 and 2, which is 8 plus 2. Tama ba? And then, saan nanggaling ang 30? You're just going to add the corresponding number of patients. So, 12 plus 8 is 20 plus 2, 22, plus 5 is 30. That's why our given probability becomes 10 over 30, or simplify, kapag ni lowest term, this will be equal to 1/3. So let us have another example, gender of children naman. So find the sample space for the gender of the children if a family has 3 children. Use B for boy and G for girl. So usually, we just determine the possible combinations, ililista lang. For example here, we have BBB or tatlong boys, BBG, BGB, BGG, GBB, girl, boy, girl, boy, and 3 girls. Ayan. So this is the sample space for the given problem. Ngayon, pwede rin naman kayo, for example, kung kayo nahihirapan maglista, edi mag tree diagram kayo. Kaya lang medyo mas mahaba yung proseso nito. Ayan, so ganyan yan. So for example, boy, girl, tapos may dalawa pa rin, magsasanga-sanga. And the final one will be the combinations, possible combinations. Pero parehas lang din naman ito nung example natin or kung paano natin dinerive yung sample space based on the given problem. Now, if a family has 3 children, find the probability that 2 of the 3 children are girls. Ganito yan mga anak, simple lang. Since we identify the sample space of the given problem, there are 8, di ba, on elements of the sample space. Ang tinatanong lang is probability na dalawa ang girls. Ilista nyo lang or identify. There are 3 outcomes na meron 2 girls, which is boy, girl, boy, girl, and girl, boy. So of course, the probability of having 2 of 3 children being girls is 3 over 8. Divide the possible outcome by the total number of outcomes. Kaya naging 3 over 8 ang pinakasagot natin dito. So please take note of the following. The probability of any event E is a number, either a fraction or a decimal or percentage. Kapag fraction or decimal, its value is between 0 and 1. Pero kapag percentage, of course, ang value niya, ang pinaka-value niya is from 0 to 100%. This is denoted that the probability of a given event will be greater than or equal to 0 but less than or equal to 1. For the next one, if an event capital E cannot occur, for example, the event contains no members in the sample space, then automatically its probability is 0. There is no chance. So therefore, 0% siya. If an event capital E is certain or sure na sure naman, then its probability is 1 or 100%. So please also take note that the sum of the probabilities of all the outcomes in the sample space is 1 or 100%. Kapag pinag-add nyo yung sum ng probabilities of the elements of the sample space to occur, then its sum is just 100%. So an additional example, rolling a die pa rin tayo. When a single die is rolled, what is the probability of getting a number less than 7? So of course, since all outcomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are less than 7, then the probability is, of course, that is 13. Tama ba? The probability of getting a numbers less than 7 when you roll a die is 1 or 100%. Okay, let's move on to our next lesson, finding complements. Diba, in set theory, we have discussed that complements are the elements of the universal set which are not present on a given set. So for example, relating that to probability, let's determine the complement of each event. So the event, given an event rolling a die and getting a 4, what's the complement of the given event? So of course, getting an outcome which is 1, 2, 3, 5, or 6. Lahat ng element ng universal set or yung ating space. Okay? And then, pwera yung given. So another example, selecting a letter of the alphabet and getting a vowel. Of course, the complement of the event is getting a consonant naman. Okay? So next, selecting a month and getting a month that begins with a J, its complement is getting the other months except for January, since that is the only month beginning with a J. For the last one, selecting a day of the week and getting a weekday, its complement, of course, is getting Saturday and Sunday since it's the complement of Monday to Friday. Let's now have some examples wherein we apply the complement of an event. So, if the probability that a person lives in an industrialized country of the world is 1 over 5 or 1/5, find the probability that a person does not live in an industrialized country. Again, given 1/5, hinahanap yung complement niya. So 1/5 is the probability that a person lives in an industrialized country. Pero ang pinapahanap ay yung probability that a person does not live in an industrialized country. So what you are going to do is just subtract the given probability since we are getting the complement. Subtract the given probability from 1. So here, 1 minus 1/5, since 1 is just equivalent to 5 over 5 minus 1/5, that is equivalent to 4/5. So the answer to the given problem is 4/5 or just 80%. Okay, some more examples. In a sample of 50 people, 21 had type O blood, 22 had type A blood, 5 had type B blood, and 2 had type AB blood. Set up a frequency distribution and find the following probability. So first is a person has type O blood. So pag pinagawa kayo ng frequency distribution, lalagay nyo lang yung in the total. So the probability that a person has type O blood, anong gagawin natin? Simply divide yung bilang ng may type O blood by the total number of people given. So here it's just 21 over 50. For our next example naman, a person has type A or type B blood. For this given example, since we are given with two events, ang gagawin nyo lang mga anak is to add their corresponding probabilities. So type A blood has 22, 22 over 50 plus type B blood is 5 over 50. So that will have 27 over 50. So the probability that a person has type A or type B blood based on the given table is just 27 over 50. Okay, let's move on to the next one. A person has neither type A nor type O blood. So this is a complement of both the two. So therefore, hindi kayo titingin sa A saka sa O. Ang titingnan natin is B and AB. So in this case, we have 5 over 50 plus 2 over 50. So therefore, the corresponding probability on this given example is just 7 over 50. Next, let's have this problem naman. A person does not have type AB blood. So this is just corresponding to the complement of AB. Since AB has 2, 2 over 50, hindi po yon ang titingnan. Pero isusubtract natin yon from 1. So 1 minus 2 over 50, it's just 48 over 50. Or simplified, in its lowest term, it's just 24 over 25. I hope that the examples given are very clear since madali lang naman siyang sundan, mga anak. Okay, so i-level up natin ng konti ang ating mga examples. So let's have this example, medical stuff. In a hospital unit, there are 8 nurses and 5 physicians. 7 nurses and 3 physicians are females. If a stop person is selected, find the probability that the subject is a nurse or a male. Okay, how are you going to solve this? Una yung gagawin, gumawa muna kayo ng table para mas malinaw. There are a total of 8 nurses and 5 physicians. Now, 7 sa nurses ang babae at 3 physicians ang babae din. So, to have the number of males, just subtract it. So, 1 ang nurse na lalaki at 2 ang physician na lalaki. So, we are going to find is the probability that the subject is a nurse or a male. So, ibig sabihin, parang disjunction ito mga anak. Nurse siya or lalaki. Pero hindi pwede yung parehong lalaki at nurse at the same time. So, for the probability, yan, tinotal muna siya by column. So, total female is 10, male is 3, and total nila is 13 lahat. So, the probability that the nurse nurse or male ang mapipiling staff. So ang formula natin is the probability of getting a nurse plus probability of getting males minus yung conjunction nila, probability of getting a male at the same time ay nurse. So the probability of getting a nurse is just 8 over 13 as given by the total. Probability of getting a male is just 1 over 13. Tama ba? Or 3 over 13 rather, since there are 3 males on the given problem. And then bakit tayo nag-subtract ng probability ng male at the same time siya ay nurse? Since that is the conjunction at ang tinatanong lang ay or disjunction. So the probability of getting a male at the same time siya ay nurse is just 1 over 13. So simplify, since these are similar fractions, 8 plus 3 is 11 minus 1 will yield an answer of 10 over 13. So therefore, that's the given probability that the subject is a nurse or a male. Okay, so another example, tossing a coin. A coin is flipped and a die is rolled. So magkaiba, coins sa die. Find the probability of getting a head on the coin and a 4 on the die. Now here, simple lang naman ito. So for the independent events, the probability of head and 4 on a die is just, anong gagawin natin? Just multiply the corresponding probability. The probability of getting a head on a coin is just 1/2, since dalawa lang naman ang possible outcomes when you flip a coin. While for the probability of getting 4 on the die, since there are 6 faces of the die corresponding to the numbers 1 to 6, at isa lang ang 4 doon, so that is 1 over 6. So the probability of getting a head and 4 on the given die, you'll just need to multiply the two. So 1/2 times 1 over 6 is just 1 over 12. So that's the given probability for the given event. Ikakat ko na doon mga anak ha, para makapag-review tayo. By the way, I will just post the slides in our Google Classroom para ma-review nyo rin. Pero yung mga examples na yon ay, yung nasa exam naman ay mas madadali, as compared to some of the examples presented in our discussion. So let's have the review. Ipe-present ko muna yung PowerPoint. Sige lang, saglit lang nak ha. Yan. Ayan. So, nakikita ba yung PowerPoint or yung slide? Paki-open po ang mic para malaman ko ba kung nakikita ba o hindi. Kita naman.
Kita yes, na po, sir.
Okay. Sige, so let's have the Salamat na. Sige, so let's have a review for the final exam. So again, as I have said kanina, the coverage is from material equivalence and logical equivalence up to combinatorics and probability. Ayan. So madali lang, ilang topics lang halos ang included. So I have divided your exam into parts. So hinati-hati ko according to topic para hindi na kayo malito. Yan. So yung first part 1 is about set theory and the different set operations. By the way, this is 13 items. Okay, so let's have an example. Yan. May mga ganitong tipo ng example. So it is an operation on sets that contains all elements of both sets without repeating elements. Is it letter A, complement of a set, letter B, difference of two sets, letter C, intersection of sets, or letter D, union of sets? Sige, would somebody like to answer? Kindly open your microphone. Paki-open po ng mic.
Union set.
Ayan, union of sets. Actually, typo error na. So, but this is union of sets. So, for complement, lahat ng element ng given universal set except doon sa mga nasa given na set doon sa problem. Pag difference naman, elements ng set na unique sa isang given set. Intersection, of course, the common elements of the two sets. And union, pinagsasama lang without repeating same elements. Okay, so meron din pong mga ganitong examples, mga anak. You are just going to analyze or determine what operation is given on the given illustration, yung shaded region. Okay,
So which of the following operations on sets describes the given Venn diagram? As you can see here, we have sets A and B, and ang shaded region is the region
Letter B po.
Ayan,
Intersection.
correct. The intersection. So intersection of A and B. Ayan, i-determine nyo kung yung iba, ano kayong itsura niyan, ha? Yung shaded region for each of the given. And then lastly, syempre, meron tayong konting problems. Ayan, given the sets A has the elements 2, 3, 4, 5, and set B has the elements 2, 4, 5, 6, what is the union of set A and set B? Yes?
Letter D po.
Yan, of course, pagsasamahin lang without repeating common elements. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is our correct answer. Yan, so this is part 1 about set theory and set operations. Now, let's go with part 2. Medyo malabo yung picture pero kita naman yan. So for part 2, given 6 items ito yata, i-identify nyo anong klase ng correspondence or relation ang given. So ang pagpipilian lang dyan, either injective. Kapag injective, 1:1 ang correspondence. Pwede rin, ang another option ay surjective. Surjective kapag ang lahat ng elements ng codomain ay na-map or nagamit. O kaya naman, pwedeng bijective kapag parehas 1:1, at the same time, lahat ng elements ng codomain ay nagamit. Okay, so now, what will be the answer for this? Injective, surjective, or bijective? Bijective ba? Is it bijective? Pag 1:1, ibig sabihin, pag injective, anak, kunyari, isang dot, tapos yung kabilang dot, other dot. So this is not 1:1. So this is not injective. Pero ano kaya to? Is it bijective or surjective?
Subjective, sir. Surjective po.
Yan, surjective lang. Ano kasi nagamit lang yung nag-iisang element ng codomain pero hindi siya 1:1. Kaya surjective ito. So 6 na items 'yon mga anak ha. Next is part 3. Part 3 is about combinatorics and probability, yung topic na diniscuss natin ngayon. Medyo simple lang yung mga problems na in-include ko doon para hindi naman mahirap sagutan at masakit sa ulo. So for example, a bag has 3 red marbles, 2 blue, and 4 yellow. What is the theoretical probability of pulling a red? So yan, probability percentage lang. What's the answer now?
Letter A po.
Yan, letter A. Simply add the given marbles. 3 plus 2 plus 4 is 9. And since we have 3 marbles, 3 divided by 9, tama rin naman. Actually, ang letter C. Pero ang hinahanap natin lagi, di ba, in mathematics, we are finding, ayan, the lowest term. Kaya 1/3 talaga ang pinakatamang sagot. So, 7 items yata. Ito, 6. Next, ayan, dito na po. Rule of inference naman. So here, given an argument, you're just going to determine what rule of inference was used on the given argument. So for example, if it rains today, the local office will be closed. The local office is not closed today, thus it did not rain today. Ang pinaka-hint dito or strategy, i-symbolize or translate nyo muna into its corresponding symbols. If it rains today, the local office will be closed. So this is P implies Q. The local office is not closed today, not Q. Thus, it did not rain yesterday or today. Therefore, not P. What's the rule of inference?
Modus tollens po.
Ayan, good. Modus tollens. Ganun ha. So, you are just going to determine the rule of inference used for each of the given arguments. If I'm not mistaken, 8 sentences or arguments ang given dito sa part na to. Okay, let's move on with the next one. Yan. So, rule of replacement naman. So, kung gaano kadami ang rule of inference, halos ganun din yata ang rule of replacement. Pakiaral niyo po mabuti. Ang gagawin dito mga anak, you will determine what rule of replacement is applicable given the first proposition, anong rule of replacement ang gagamitin so that we can replace it with the proposition here at the bottom or on the right. Sa exam kasi nasa right to, nasa column B. From M implies N to not negation of M implies N. Sige nga. Sa lahat ng sections, wala pa yata nakakasagot nito. Baka sa inyo pa lang. So tingin nyo, what rule of replacement is applicable here? Ang dami kasi, no? Hindi pa siguro nasa sa ulo. Ano? Ayan, so here, we use material implication. Tingnan niyo yung rule. So, ang hint ko dito, mga anak, minsan nababago ang rules of replacement, depende na rin sa given. Pero yung pattern naman, halos the same din. Pag-aralan niyo mabuti itong part na to, ha? So, this is around 7 to 8 items din. And finally, yan. So, last part natin is testing for material and logical equivalence. I have there 3 items. 4 points ito bawat isa. So, ang gagawin niyo po, you are going to test whether 2 given propositions, yung given naman natin ay medyo madali as compared to the midterm exam na napakahaba ng table. Dito, medyo simple lang yung operations na nilagay ko at i-determine kung materially and logically equivalent. Remember that for material equivalence to happen, 2 propositions must have the same truth values. Parehas lahat. Ano? And to say that it is logically equivalent, ang kailangan nyo gawin is to perform biconditional ng dalawang propositions. Kapag ang biconditional ng dalawang propositions ay lahat true or tautology, therefore, siya ay logically equivalent din. So may mga options, pero gawan po ng table since 4 points po bawat isa ito. Okay, so may question ba tayo? So yan, so that covers our exam and the different exam types. So I think, wala naman sigurong magiging problema sa exam kung mag-aaral. So, 50 points po yun lahat. By the way, wala pa yata ang nilalabas na schedule. Let's wait for further announcements. Paki-check na lang po ang ating GC for further instructions. Kung wala na pong question, sige na mga anak, mag-e-end na kasi rin ang meet. Good luck na lang sa inyong exam. Mag-aral mabuti. Ingat kayo sa pag-uwi mamaya. And I hope na naipasa nyo na nga ang mga activities nyo since i-close ko na siya by this coming Monday, ang submission. So with that, goodbye, God bless, ingat kayo, enjoy the weekend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Sir, ano nga po ulit yung coverage module?